Hassan!
It's almost!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here.
Hi, I'm Rupha Ramani and you're watching Firstpost. When you face all the heat, whether it's from the biggest challengers to your throne or all the critics in the world who are judging your every misstep, how do you emerge from it all? Do you give up and admit defeat or hold your ground and fight? Two sporting heroes that we will highlight on our show today are prime examples of this. They are not black or white, they're grey and they love to occupy that space. Fans hate them, some love them and secretly do not wish them to change. Shakib Al Hassan, new MP and Bangladesh cricket captain. Can he do it all and balance the act? And Novak Djokovic, hurting from the loss at Brisbane International. Can he create history at Melbourne Park and make magical number 25? That's heading your way today. Also, we're speaking of history and legacy here. What about the legacy of the Patriots at the NFL or the National Football League? They are bidding farewell to a giant who was responsible for their Super Bowl success. More on that after the headlines in Sports 360. We'll start with cricket. India beat Afghanistan in the first T20 international in India's Mohali. Afghanistan batted first and scored 158 in their first innings. The men in blue successfully chased down the target in the 17th over itself. Shivam Dube scored a half-century and won the Player of the Match award. India now leads the three-match T20 series 1-0. In football, the aircraft of Gambia's national football team had to make an emergency landing. There was a sudden loss of oxygen in the plane's cabin, forcing the inhaler masks to drop down. Upon landing, the coach and the players said they were scared for their life, but are thankful they're alive. Gambia's team was flying to Ivory Coast to take part in the Africa Cup of Nations. Monday will see another chapter of the El Clasico. It's a final. Barcelona will meet Real Madrid on the 15th of January. This after Barcelona beat Osasuna 2-0 in yesterday's Spanish Super Cup semi-final clash. In the 59th minute, Robert Lewandowski opened the scoring tally. 3 minutes into second half injury time, Lamine Yamal scored to extend Barcelona's lead and win the game. On to badminton. The world number 2 Indian duo is now in the semi-finals of the Malaysia Open. Chirag Shetty and Sathwik Sairaj Rankireddy took just 35 minutes to thrash their Chinese counterparts 21-11, 21-8 in straight sets. And another setback hits Israel. It has been banned from international ice hockey competitions. Israel has been barred from championships organized by the International Ice Hockey Federation. It cited safety concerns for other participants. The body said, and I quote, "Israel will remain excluded for the time being at least." Now we love anomalies. Someone or something that is different from the usual or what most consider the norm. That's why we have champions. They end up doing something extra, a little more than the usual to emerge winners. And that's why we love the underdogs, because they can always bring a surprise when we least expect it. Shakib Al Hassan is an anomaly. He's always been one, an exciting all-rounder, a commodity that is one of the most sought after in T20 cricket the world over. We do not have to look at his numbers. They're all there, well documented and recorded. Proof that Shakib is a match winner for Bangladesh, or for that matter, any team that he's been a part of and he continues to be. This week, the biggest story emerging from the world of sports was that of a national team cricket captain who had just finished an ODI World Cup campaign win a parliamentary seat. An anomaly. Shakib Al Hassan contested the elections from the constituency of Magura. It's a town about a little more than 100 miles from the capital Dhaka. And he was contesting for the Awami League. In fact, the Prime Minister and Chief of Awami League, Sheikh Hasina, told, and I quote, "You do not need to give a speech. You can hit a six and you can take the wickets with the ball. Just hit a six again in the election." During the campaign trail, someone told Shakib that every district of Bangladesh has its own speciality, whether it's food or a garment. Here in Magura, when we ask what's the speciality, they unanimously say Shakib. To which Shakib smiled and responded that he would say the same. That's the confidence that we see each time, especially when he comes into a match situation where he has to either bail his team out with the bat or restrict the opposition with the ball. There's an unmistakable swagger about Shakib. We saw it on the pitch and we are witnessing it now off it. He ended up winning the elections quite effortlessly. Shakib won by a landslide victory. He beat his rival by a margin of more than 150,000 votes, getting him a seat in the House. And just a few days after this news comes a video. A video of Shakib slapping a fan sounds shocking and, quite honestly, damaging to his image for a career in politics that's just begun. But then came the clarifications. This was when Shakib had gone to cast his vote. In one of the polling booths, mayhem broke out when Shakib walked in. He was immediately thronged by fans wanting a piece of him. And one particular admirer was rather violent, resulting in a campaigner, at least that's what he was back then, giving the fan a tight slap. In fact, another video went just as viral in the lead up to the Bangladesh elections. Take a look. Shakib caught looking rather bored, yawning away rather elaborately during his own election campaign. He's mobbed on the stage too, and with bored reluctance agrees to selfies. These two instances quite sum up rather aptly what Shakib is. There is that sense of confidence and pride of bringing his charisma and that X factor, the celebrity status, to the table, and then there is that streak in him that can just snap anytime. It's there waiting to explode. It's an extension of the kind of person he has always been on the cricket field. The sense of assurance, of course, comes from the innumerable times he has struck cameos, making his bat do the talking, or when his guile as a spinner has come to the fore. Clearly multifaceted, and Shakib knew his worth in any cricket setup. But his temper, or that streak, as we call it, would keep coming up, rearing its head once in a while, whether it was angrily breaking the stumps and fighting with the umpire to show his displeasure, or shrewdly appealing for a never-before timed out to dismiss Sri Lankan former captain Angelo Matthews at a World Cup encounter. And this multifaceted cricketer is all set to do the balancing act in life. While on the campaign trail, he's immediately asked about retiring from cricket, and Shakib outright scoffs at the question. Just look at the chain of events. Shakib is made captain of Bangladesh suddenly with the exit of Tamim Iqbal, leads Bangladesh to rather disappointing outings at the Asia Cup and World Cup. Even leaves his team in the middle of the World Cup campaign to head back home to meet his mentor, flies back, finishes the tournament. News comes of him being injured, which means no international cricket for a while. He even later reveals he was playing with blurred vision throughout the tournament, the World Cup. Announcement of elections then follows with Shakib as candidate for the Awami League. In his absence, Bangladesh, under the captaincy of Najmul Hossain Shanto, plays out a gritty series against New Zealand. Meanwhile, the day after he wins a seat in the parliament, Shakib Al Hassan is back to training. The Rangpur Riders is a T20 side contesting in the Bangladesh Premier League, or the BPL. They are the first to start their training and net sessions 10 days prior to the BPL tournament beginning. And amongst all the players is the newly elected MP.
The BPL is starting from 19th January. I have to be prepared for that. I have been out of the game for the last 2.5 months and couldn't work on my fitness and skill. So I will normally need some time, and I didn't want to waste any time.
He also said his finger is healing rather well, and though he can't wait to get back to competitive cricket, he also said he had not really missed it as much. Shakib the cricketer and Shakib the politician, there are two personas that he has to maintain, though all these incidents clearly say that whether he's captaining a side on a cricket field or being a parliamentarian, at the heart of decision-making for his country, the Shakib that you see in public is a Shakib you'll get. He may be charismatic, just as he is callous and rather crazy at times, and maybe that's what the fans like about him. There is no facade or a screen that covers the not-so-pleasant demeanor. But will this hold up in a new arena like the political sphere, one that he's just entered? It's quite hard to tell. Tennis's first mega event of the year is upon us. The Australian Open was going to be the return of tennis's biggest rivalry. But with Rafael Nadal's withdrawal from the slam, everyone will be wondering who can possibly stop Novak Djokovic. The Grand Slam begins this weekend, and over the next 2 weeks, Melbourne Park will witness players attempting to etch their names in the sport's history books. Organisers have increased the prize money, a 13% rise from last year, with a record $59 million up for grabs. It promises to be bigger, better, and much bolder.
Melbourne Park in the Australian Open is on steroids. This year they've been extra loud and extra sporty, and everyone has lapped it all up. And with reason too. After Rafael Nadal's sudden withdrawal from the Slam, the first mega tennis event of the year needed that extra bit of stardom and sport power. So Novak Djokovic and friends hit the centre court to dish out some never-seen-before entertainment for the excited fans. He joined forces with some of Australia's renowned sporting heroes, such as Peter Ball, former cricket captain Steve Smith and gymnast Georgia Goldwyn. And it was a riot. But let's get back to the challenge at hand. Who are the top contenders here? Leading the star-studded lineup at the tournament in the men's draw is the one who holds the Australian Open title for a record 10 times. And after the loss at the Brisbane International, Djokovic will be looking to turn up the heat.
You know, I knew that probably not going to be at my 100% physically, emotionally, mentally, game-wise. In the opening week of a season, neither did I expect that, neither did I want that, to be honest. It's all a part of the build-up for Australian Open, you know. So that's where I want to perform at my best. And so, again, you know, it's never nice to lose a match, of course, but you know, it's not really going to stay with me much.
Djokovic will eye to go past Margaret Court's haul of 24 Grand Slam titles, a record that has stood for half a century now. But he will face some intense fire from the young guns at the Oz Open. Standing in his way are two main foes, Jannik Sinner and Stan Wawrinka. Yes, you heard me right. Wawrinka has been rather quiet all these years, but maybe on hard courts you can't discount this mean machine. Wawrinka's 5-set marathons against Djokovic at Melbourne Park in 2013 and 2014 were undoubtedly the most thrilling matches at the tournament. And this edition could promise part 3 of the two rivals. Wawrinka has previously conquered Djokovic in French and US Open finals, and now could be a potential 4th-round hurdle for the Serb. Then comes Sinner, whose rise to the top can't be ignored. Sinner's best run at slams was last year's Wimbledon, where he reached the semi-finals but lost to Djokovic. Sinner is also among the very few to defeat Djokovic twice in the span of 12 days, during the Davis Cup and the ATP finals. Carlos Alcaraz's run in 2023 was below expectations. The Spaniard was plagued with injuries and skipped the Australian Open last year. So he returns with the hunger to win his 3rd Grand Slam. Alcaraz, who has taken the tennis world by storm, could set the stage on fire because winning this Grand Slam would see him dethrone Djokovic and reclaim the #1 spot. Over in the women's draw, Iga Swiatek, seeded #1, is a favourite. She will chase her first Australian Open title, but her path looks slippery. It is projected that she will face former champions Sofia Kenin and Angelique Kerber in the initial rounds. Meanwhile, Aryna Sabalenka will look to retain the Australian Open Championship. She cruised to the world #1 rankings after reaching semi-finals of the other 3 Grand Slams. None of the big seeds is in her way in at least the opening rounds. Her only worry could be Ons Jabeur at the quarter-finals. Jabeur is an established trailblazer in tennis, and her mission continues to be to chase that all-elusive Grand Slam. Nicknamed the Minister of Happiness, she has nothing to lose. Last year, after missing the Wimbledon, she broke down into tears and admitted that it was her most painful loss. She approaches the competition with just one mindset: experience values more than the final outcomes. Let's not forget comeback mom Naomi Osaka, as well as teen sensation Coco Gauff. Both could prove stiff competitors in the mix. Now on to the Indians who have made it to the main draw. Sumit Nagal being the only one in the singles category, becoming the first Indian at the Open after 3 years. Rohan Bopanna will be in action with long-times double partner Matthew Ebden.
Let's talk about the biggest league in the world, the NFL or the National Football League. A significant portion of American football revolves around it. A bit of a primer before our story here. The NFL is not only the richest, but the most followed league in the world. It consists of 32 teams that are divided into two conferences, the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference. And at the end of the season, 7 teams from each of these conferences, that's 14 in total, progress. Then each of the 7 will play each other in that separate conference. And of course, it's a single match elimination tournament. The same happens over in the other conference. And then, based on the seeding, it all culminates with the NFL championships between the winners of the two conferences. That is the Super Bowl. Today's story is about a 6-time Super Bowl champ, Bill Belichick. He's also one of the most successful coaches in the history of NFL. Yesterday, he parted ways with New England Patriots, a team practically synonymous with the legend. As he confirmed his departure, Belichick said, and I quote, "I'll always be a Patriot," but with his exit, the league has lost one of its most devout Patriot and coaches.
NFL and Super Bowl fans woke up to the shocking news of Bill Belichick's departure from the New England Patriots. It marks an inglorious chapter for the Patriots, who now embark on a journey to look for a head coach after 24 seasons. But filling the void left by Belichick will be near impossible.
Coach Belichick will forever be celebrated as a legendary sports icon here in New England, and I believe go in as a Pro Football Hall of Famer on the first ballot. Why? Because he is the greatest coach of all times, which makes this decision to part ways so hard. But this is a move that we mutually agreed that is needed at this time. What Bill accomplished with us, in my opinion, will never be replicated. And the fact that it was done in the salary cap and free agency era makes it even more extraordinary.
Belichick is now expected to receive calls from at least 7 NFL teams who would scramble to secure him because he's built a dynasty and established a celebrated legacy that is so difficult to follow. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce may be the new hip poster couple of the NFL, but it wasn't too long ago that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were that to the NFL. The power couple that was unstoppable and whose fan base was staggering. Together, Brady and Belichick dominated the game for 2 decades before they parted ways in 2020. The duo had the Midas touch. They won 6 Super Bowl titles together. Belichick was hired for the Patriots in the year 2000. Just a year later, his partnership with quarterback Tom Brady began. Interestingly, Tom wasn't even a first-choice player. Tom himself admits he would never have turned out to be the superstar he went on to become had it not been for Belichick. Belichick's biggest contribution to Patriots has been Tom Brady. In 2017, they cemented their legacy with a dramatic Super Bowl win. The Patriots pulled off the greatest victory in NFL's history.
What a game, huh? What a game. Can't say enough about our team. We got some really good coaches. I thought that our coordinators, Matt, Josh, and Joe, did a tremendous job in handling the game. There's a lot of great situational football, adjustments, and they just kept coaching. We just kept trying to find a little crack in the armor and keep plugging away. And our team just showed great mental toughness throughout the game. Just never really flinched, even though the score was so against us for so long. That they just kept plugging away, just kept fighting, just kept trying to make plays.
After the 34-28 win over Atlanta Falcons in 2017, Brady went on to become the game's all-time greatest quarterback. Belichick has coached over 1,000 players during his tenure with New England. His uncanny approach and spirited dedication is what sets him apart.
And of course, a great deal of thanks and appreciation to the players. Players win games in the NFL, and I've been very, very fortunate to coach some of the greatest players that have ever played. Some of the greatest players that have ever played for the Patriots. Some are already in the Hall of Fame. Many more are going.
He's a rugged, gruffy figure, often seen wearing hoodies with cut-off sleeves. People would often describe him as the hobo chic. But underneath this dull exterior is a bright mind that shaped football talents to attain brilliance. The Patriots will surely miss him, but it is the biggest loss to a legacy, one that has kept fans of the NFL hooked for decades.
But time to wrap up our show and time for Last Serve. Now we've saved the best for the last day of the week, the most poignant and emotional moment to leave you with. We're simply amazed by Sheetal Devi, the armless para-archer from India who is world number 1. Well, here's another similar story that will blow your mind. 34-year-old Amir Hussain Lone, who is the captain of the Jammu and Kashmir para-cricket team. An inspiration to not just his teammates, but athletes the world over. Absolutely a story of resilience. He lost his arms in an accident when he was 8 years old. Clearly, the fighting spirit here is what we showcase on Firstpost. Thank you so much for joining us here on the end of this week. Have a happy weekend. I'll see you again on Monday. Till then, bye-bye.